Hello, hello. Welcome to Tammy's Table. I am so glad that you are joining us today. Every Monday at 12 o'clock, we gather in the kitchen, like so many of you do at parties, and we talk. We talk about life. We talk about stuff you don't learn in school. We talk about situations we think we can't get through. And it's the same sort of wisdom and guidance that you get when you sit in the kitchen with the elders and people that have different experience. So on Tammy's Table, I bring on different people every week to help us sort of navigate and grow and expand and become more resilient in all areas of your life. So today I am excited to welcome back someone who I'm proud to call my friend and the love coach, Candice Harper. Good morning.
Absolutely. Hi, my love. How are you?
I am awesome. Really, every time you come on, I feel like I got a good dose for the week.
Good. I like being a good dose.
Good dose. How are you doing?
I can't complain. I mean, it's just, I'm in Maryland. It's beautiful. I've been running, like just happy. Happy, happy, happy. Things are good. I got my doggies and my partner Wes. Like we're just loving life. Like I can't complain.
Oh, good. Well, listen, you deserve to love life,
Thank
and
you.
really everybody deserves to love
Everybody deserves it.
something,
Absolutely.
someone, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to talk about the pitfalls and practices for healthy love and relationships.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of fascinated with this topic. There's things that you will do that will trip you up, and things that you can do to encourage your success. But I want to start with this. You and I have talked about, and I've heard you talk about and read, that people that we attract are really just mirror images of our relationship with ourselves.
Absolutely.
So, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so one of the things that I teach with clients and in workshops is around understanding your core values and falling in love with yourself and falling in love with who you know yourself to be, right? Because exactly how we treat ourselves internally is what becomes mirrored in our love relationships. So, when I was in a very abusive relationship, I went into that relationship with all my unhealed stuff, all my resentments, all of my, and unknowingly, like it's not like we're walking around, let me take this in here with me. But, it's those things that actually, no matter how much we practice self care, if we haven't healed that stuff, that's what the internal landscape looks like. And love and loving relationships and romantic relationships are built to show us our internal. That's like their very existence, right?
Right,
So what
right.
we attract is a mirror to whatever's going on within me. We want to like often put it on that person. Like that
Yeah,
person was a narcissist and they were so awful and but they are just a mirror of exactly how I'm treating myself, how I'm talking to myself, whether I'm willing to heal myself, all of that.
that was some Monday morning bucket of cold water on your head for a lot of people, I'm sure, because it's so much easier to blame the other person than it is to look at yourself. And I think that's also hard work, like that healing that you're talking about. The easy thing to do is to not just keep moving through it and taking it with you,
Yeah,
the suitcase everywhere you go. The hard work, and I know personally, and I'm doing it, is like healing that stuff.
absolutely.
It's not very fun.
Yeah, and some people will be like, oh, when you say easy, what I hear is comfortable because we get so good at just managing, life on low. I think Jan Levan Zant calls it dead from the neck down. We get so used to just numbing ourselves to all of that stuff and just going through life. And so, a lot of people, their ears might perk up when you say easy, but what it is it's comfortable. Like
Right.
I know how to deal with all the things I don't want, so I just continue to not heal, or it's easier to not face the things that actually might have me, break through to something I'm not used to.
Yeah. How do
Mhm.
you okay, convince is the wrong word, but if you ran into somebody on the street or in the park
Yeah.
and they were sharing their unhealthy relationship story with you, how do you convince somebody that it's worth it? Like it's worth the effort and the time and the discomfort.
Yeah. I mean, the magic of coaching is that you always can go back to what people say they desire. right? And you also can get a gauge on the level at which they desire it. Because we don't change unless we want something so much harder than we want to stay the same.
Right.
Right. So if I'm talking to someone brand new, I always ask them what it is that they want and where they are on their level of desire for it. If someone comes to me and they're like, "Oh, I'd love to have a love coach. That would be fun." I'm like, "Well, where are you with your desire for having it?" If they're like a 7 or below, I won't even work with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like you're not going to want to do all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as it gets challenging, you're going to be like, "Oh, I got
That
too much
is.
work to do." And now,
Yeah.
I got my kids. It's, like all your issues will come up to keep you away
Exactly.
from it. So, yeah, it always goes back to how hard do you really want it? How much do you
That's
really
good
desire
stuff.
it?
That's good stuff. So listen, that's a great lead into talking about some of the pitfalls of having a healthy, loving relationship.
Yeah.
Um, you've mentioned, I've heard you mention imposter syndrome
Mhm.
as one of the pitfalls, something you need to be aware of. So first of all, can you explain what that is and how that shows up?
Yeah, so it's just that belief that we are not worthy or we're not capable, right? Like, a lot of us walk around, and I don't want to say everyone, but I would imagine just the experience of being human. As you're growing up, there are things that we experience that might say to us, because we come out of the womb knowing we're enough, right? We come out of the womb like, I cry, you give me what I want. That's the way it's supposed to go. And then the world teaches you, well, you didn't do that right. You don't do this right. You got to learn how to do that. And in all the different ways that it teaches us that. And so sometimes we internalize that there's something wrong. Like I did something wrong. I am wrong. We make that association. I made a misstep and I'm guilty. Or if I choose to try to do something with my life or to step out of what is my comfort zone of what I know how to do, who am I to do that? Like I never knew how to do this before. It's that questioning of ourselves. It's that
Mhm.
secretly thinking that no matter what I want, I'm probably not good enough for it. Right.
Right.
And we all have that on some level. And so that shows up in, our work, our entrepreneurship, even when we work in the corporate setting. So imagine if it's showing up there, how it's
Mhm.
showing up in your love life. Like if you inherently, and because I work with Black women in particular, generationally, we've been taught that having a loving relationship where you can be a soft girl and be completely taken care of and feel loved and can love that person, and not worry about getting cheated and actually have that is something that we rarely get modeled for us or we
Right.
feel like is impossible, right? We sit around in circles and we can talk about it ad nauseum, like men cheat, and why can't we have this, and what's wrong with it? Like, why can't they get it together? So it's that idea that if I go for something great in my love life, I really don't believe that it's my birthright or that I'm deserving of it, and that's that imposter syndrome, how it shows up in love.
So thank you for that. I think that's relatable for a lot of people. And you mentioned like business and your personal life. Why me is a question I always ask. When it comes to, I'm very confident in all these other areas of my life, but when it comes to my loving relationships, sometimes it's like, why me?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
when you say why me, like why me? Why would I have it, or why?
right.
Yeah,
That
got it.
what you just said, that deserving thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so you just did something funny, which brings me to the next pitfall. You were like, girl, blah, 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 sitting around in circles. And yes, we're in the kitchen, but sitting around in the kitchen or in circles, like sharing how disgruntled you are with like men and your love life.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's an easy tendency.
Hmm.
I was at a party this weekend, and there was a gaggle of women complaining. And of course, I'm single, but I was like, I'm not going over there. It
Yeah, yeah.
it feels bad.
Yeah.
So, what has your experience been of people feeding each other's crazy when it comes to relationships?
Well, definitely a lot of times when I work with clients, there's that contending with that they have a girl group that confirms their biases. So usually what I'm up against is their girl group, social media, because social media will definitely confirm all of the biases, all the negative thinking, and then also the conditioning, the past conditioning, right? So my thing with it is, it's really important to be able to build a network that supports you in your endeavors. And while you can love someone so much, especially your group of girlfriends, like it's very important that we bond. It's very important that we get together. Historically, as women, that's what we do. We get together and talk about what's going on. We warn each other of danger. That's biologically, it's built into our DNA. But it's very important to understand that sometimes I can be so going back to comfortable with the complaint. And when I find someone who will confirm my biases, we get so comfortable in the complaint that we're basically creating exactly what we're experiencing. And I always say our words create worlds, right? So if I'm sitting around complaining about it all the time, I'm not only experiencing it, but I'm also generating it. And now I have this whole other group, we're all generating it together. And so we're kind of stuck in a cycle of, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, you're feeding the beast,
Yeah.
whatever your beast is. And that's why when I saw that like group of, women, I was like, I don't want to be involved in that,
Yeah.
number one, because I love men. I believe that they are fundamentally, most of them, great. And
Yeah.
we need to, just find the right one.
Absolutely.
But the other thing is when I'm in those circles and I hear, people speaking, sometimes I get completely defensive.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on like defensiveness as a pitfall in how does that show up in a relationship?
Well, I mean, I think mainly with defensiveness, it's really about my ego's being triggered, right? So if I'm in let's say I'm, just as your example, a conversation where I don't agree with what people are saying, the ego side of me starts to feel a fear. And the ego is there to protect us, right, from our fears. The fear is I'm going to be the outlier here. And some of us can get right over that and just be like, look, I'm standing up for what I believe. I don't care what y'all think. And for others, most of us, that feels very uncomfortable because nobody wants to be ostracized or kicked off the island. So, it's just recognizing that my defensiveness is just a little bit of fear around the fact that I don't see it the way you see it. And
Mhm.
once we tell ourselves that, it's up to us to be able to say, well, what do I want to do with that fear? Do I want to let the ego decide, or do I just want to be true to what I know, right? And
So
if I go ahead.
how does that show up in an unhealthy relationship? Like how does that contribute defensiveness to an unhealthy relationship?
I mean, it definitely keeps the ability to be intimate, like an emotional intimate connection. It definitely is a sabotage to that, right? So when I'm quick to defend, or if I feel like, and also too, we forget that relationship, it's built in the word relating, right? So
Yeah.
you're not necessarily meant to always be on the same page. And so if defensiveness is your response to someone not being on the same page, you're just preventing yourself from having intimate connection. You're preventing yourself from getting to know each other in a way that provides the safety and the stability and the knowingness.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there any other I'm sure you have a a giant dictionary size filled with all sorts of pitfalls, but are there any other pitfalls that you want to call out? A big like rock pitfall.
Yeah. So it's funny because I also have the PDF that I wrote in front of me, and as you said that, I looked up and the first thing I saw was soldiering in the gender wars. That's one
Mm.
of my favorite ones because it goes back to what I was talking about with, having the big negative conversations and being on social media and absorbing all of that, and then also participating in, the what I really often run into, especially when I'm on social media, is this generalization and the treating each other like we're a monolith and the way that we view our dating life as if it's all just this one blob of negativity rather than understanding that everyone is a field of possibility, right? So if I don't allow that field of possibility, then I'm just going to keep getting what I believe. I'm just going to keep getting my biases confirmed. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's
another big
beautiful.
one.
That everyone is a field of possibility.
Everyone is. Everyone is.
That's beautiful. Listen, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to keep chatting with Candice Harper about the pitfalls and practices for healthy, loving relationships.
feeling. Celebration tonight. Celebrate, don't wait too late. No, we don't stop. You can't stop. We're gonna celebrate one more time. One more time. One more time. A celebration.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Tammy's Table. We are excited to be getting the wisdom of Candice Harper today, the love coach. Um, Candice, before we went to break, you were talking about the like this struggle, the gender struggle,
The gender
um,
wars.
which is real. Especially, I mean, I've been a single mom for the last almost 20 something years, 20
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
It is a struggle to figure out the roles. And I took a look at your the best practices for a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm stuck on that partnership piece. Because if you're
Mm.
struggling, if there's some sort of a gender war, but a best practices partnership, like how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it goes back to, what I was originally saying about understanding your own core values, because it's very important as we're dating, and it's very important to be always in conversation about how someone views partnership and what they think it is. Because the beginning of partnership is having an understanding that we think it's the same thing.
Right, right,
And if we think it's something different, having those early conversations, we're like, what does it mean to you? For some people, it means traditional, right?
right.
And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you're both into, right? But for some other people, it means 50-50. We work together. Like, we both earn, we both take care of everything. There's no, he can't do domestic thing. Like, we share all of that. And then for some people, it's completely the opposite. I had a really good girlfriend who I went to grad school with. And I remember her husband, and this was like a couple decades ago when it was, still kind of taboo. Her husband took care of their daughter and stayed home, and she had a really fantastic career. And so it's the understanding that I know this is right for me, and part of what makes you someone good for me is that we can come to some sort of agreement about what that needs to look like. And often we don't even talk about that. It's like, you're hot, let's get together and see how this works out. And then we get into, we're really caring about each other, and it starts to be domestic. And then all of a sudden we're fighting because one has an expectation the other one didn't expect, or, the dynamic is really different and we don't know how to navigate around it or talk to each other about it. And so, yeah, with all these gender wars going on and people insisting that, it's got to be this way, or this is how it's supposed to look, or, all women don't know how to please their man anymore, like those ridiculous, hyperbolic thoughts that we have about each other based on gender are a hindrance to that if you think that it's true in any way for you. It's like you have to know what's true for you, right?
Yeah,
This is
that's
what
so
I need.
interesting. That is so interesting, Candy, because so you talked about grad school, which was a couple of decades ago, maybe.
A few.
My grandparents had the most amazing partnership I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Both of my grandfathers stayed home and raised the
Wow.
kids, and both of my grandmothers went out and had amazing careers. They were
Yeah.
trailblazers. They did like phenomenal things.
Yeah.
Um, but there must be a hybrid model. I'm going to put
Mm.
this out there because they also, not my mom's dad, like my mom's dad did all the cooking. My grandmother would come home from wherever she was and make sure there was a hot meal on the table.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, so maybe there's a hybrid model of that.
There is.
Because I
There
definitely have
definitely
like that
is.
traditional thing, but I hate doing laundry, so I'm going to need you to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's part of how you get to know each other, right? You talk about those things.
Hmm.
Like, I see myself as someone who likes to share household chores. How about you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm someone who I like to work. I'm kind of a workaholic. I don't mind bringing home the money. Where are you at on that? And it's okay to just not, first of all, to not have the same, like if you decide you're not compatible, that it's not going to work, that's okay. We get so like, why don't they see it how I see it? Like, this is the energy I want to have, but it really is very unique to each couple. You have to be able to figure out what it is for you
Okay, so when do you have that conversation?
right away. And I'm not saying in
Like
a,
first date?
yeah, and I'm not saying in a demanding sort of interview kind of way. Like organically, I think you can ask somebody, what does partnership look like to you? People always ask, so what are you looking for? Which is like, that general question that people are like, oh, I'm looking for love. Well, duh. It's like let's actually pinpoint, like what is within love? It's relating and partnership and intimacy and like go a little deeper. So what is partnership? When you think of the word partnership, what do you think of? No attachment to it. You're not going to make them wrong if it's not what you're thinking it should be. But why not ask them that question on the first date?
Yeah, I love when they say, what are you looking for? Obviously something like you, since you're sitting here.
Right?
Um, so listen, let's shift a little bit and talk about integrity and how that contributes to a healthy relationship. And it's interesting. I obviously know integrity from like the world, from business, like doing what you say you're going to do, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But how does that trickle over or translate into having a healthy relationship, having integrity?
I love that question because the integrity piece is so, so important. First of all, we need to separate integrity from morality, right? We need to make that distinction. Integrity and morality are not the same thing. So sometimes we feel like, oh, if someone cheats, that's about integrity. And it is in a way, but that's a morality thing, right? Like if we make an agreement and you break it because you have I don't know, sex addiction or whatever. Like there's a morality factor. The integrity factor in that is when I make a declaration about either what I'm going to do, who I am, how I'm going to be, how I'm going to behave, and I'm conscious and I'm in integrity, I am making a point to be committed to the behaviors and the actions that align with that. Like if the declaration is committed, I'm committed to this relationship. So I got to get clear on what I even mean by that. For some people, being committed to a relationship means that they're very romantic and they call every day and they, but when I know that committed to a relationship for me means, sharing myself authentically, supporting you in your endeavors and the things that you're interested in, meeting your family and being open to the people that are around you so that I can join into your community, your sphere. Like when I'm clear on those things and I'm acting in alignment with them, which means I'm not having an attitude because, I don't like your sister or whatever. Because that doesn't push that forward. If what I'm committed to, let's say, is us having a family together, then I'm open to how I can, have intimate relationships and get to know everybody in your sphere. And by intimate, I just mean emotionally, obviously, not sexually, but
Yeah.
everybody in your sphere, right? That's a whole nother dynamic.
Yeah.
But the integrity piece is about, it's about the four-legged chair, right? A three-legged chair is wobbly. It doesn't have, if you take a four-legged chair and you take one away, it doesn't have integrity,
Right.
right? It's going to topple over. But if it has four legs, it's got integrity. It's strong because it's in alignment with what it's meant to do. It's got all the pieces. So it's getting all the pieces of what I know is important to me and what I'm committed to, what we're declaring. And it's why weddings were invented, believe it or not. One of the reasons is because you get to declare in front of everybody,
Right.
this is what we're doing, and this is what we promise each other. Everybody in the community gets to hold you accountable to being in integrity with what you've said,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now, whether you have a wedding or not, if you have an agreement with someone, it's just how do I align with? First, I got to get in agreement with myself. Right? I know myself to be someone who's about community and family and adventure or, whatever your things are. I got to get clear about those things for myself. And then I can partner with you. So what are the things you're committed to? What are you declaring for yourself? That's where integrity is really important. And that's where when we share it, we really get to bond with each other and know each other. That's how love grows.
Okay, now I have a burning question because you mentioned
Yeah.
people have a wedding so they can declare their love and be held accountable.
Yeah.
Does that impact, do you have if somebody has three people at their wedding and
Mhm.
somebody has 300 people at their wedding, is
Mhm.
one less committed? Are they making a statement? Are they making a statement about like, I'm sure, but I don't want to be, I don't want to be sure in front of like all these people. I know there's a million reasons why people have small weddings.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's always a possibility.
I'm going deep. I'm going deep
You
like
are.
serious Dr. Love. Okay, I'm holding. All right, let's get off of that. But
But no, I mean, that's a possibility, but anything's possible around that, right? Like it could also
yeah.
be that there's someone who they're highly introverted and they don't allow a lot of people into their close circle. And so that could mean something very positive for the relationship because that means you made it into that close circle. You know what I mean?
You're not getting out.
Exactly.
Um, okay, so let's talk about, and this is a big thing for me, and I've done a lot of shows around forgiveness.
Yeah.
You talk about responsible forgiveness.
Yes.
And I think forgiveness is tough because people feel like I'm admitting I'm doing something wrong, or why did they win? Which is not
Absolutely.
what forgiveness is about at all. So talk about like what is responsible forgiveness?
So responsible forgiveness just means that I am making the choice to not be at the consequence of who you were, right? I'm taking responsibility for my power in the situation. So if, let's say, it's a trauma from a parent, a lot of times we can experience a trauma. And if you grow up in religious circles, you might get the Jesus form of forgiveness where you just turn the other cheek and you try to pretend like it didn't happen and stuff it down every time you see them in the holidays. And the resentment just kind of like sits there, but you're like smiling and trying to make it okay, make it good. And if you find yourself in that kind of relationship, you know that there's forgiveness to be had, especially with family, where it's like you have to stuff it down and smile and pretend. That's because there's a lot of forgiveness that needs to happen. And oftentimes we resist it because, like you said, we think that it means that we're absolving them of everything and that we're making it okay and that we're agreeing with whatever the trauma was. When in fact, when we're responsible about forgiveness, what we're doing is just doing the work to recognize what was it that I made up in my mind to survive the trauma? What did I tell myself? Because whatever I told myself, if I haven't forgiven, I'm still believing that thought, right? So let's say a parent uh, beats you and you're young and it's just, a really violent or just something that really sticks with you, scares you, hurts your feelings. You might say to yourself, I'm never going to open up again to that
Right,
parent and maybe no one else because this is what it got me. Or
right.
I'm never going to whatever it is again. And so I could be 40 years old and the 5-year old or the 6-year old who said, I'm never going to express myself again is still saying that in the back of the mind. But when
Hmm.
I take the time to responsibly forgive and recognize, and this is why I do hypnotherapy, because I take people back to those moments where they decided something, recognize that I decided who I was going to be based on that trauma. They didn't decide that part. They did
Hmm.
the part they did, and they're responsible for that. But I'm the one who made the decision to believe something that now no longer works, which means I also have the power to now believe something else. I have the power to change that so that I no longer have to be at the consequence of whatever it was that they did. And so that's just where the responsibility factor comes in, knowing that I have the power, that I don't have to continue the suffering.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That is work worth doing. I
Yeah.
think I have to practice it. I have a large family of different personalities, and I think we all do.
Yeah.
Um, that's the best place to practice it, maybe before it even gets to your relationship.
100%.
Yeah. Hey,
Journey that I take people on is like, forgiving that early stuff. A lot of times with, for us as Black women, a lot of times it kind of starts with the mother relationship. Father relationship's important too, but those early relationships, I always take everybody through that journey. It's you got to do those early relationship forgivenesses because if you can do those, you can do it with anybody.
Hey, love it. You mentioned hypnotherapy. What else are you working on? where can people reach out and touch you? So if they want to do hypnotherapy or be in your aura for them.
Yeah. So I infuse the hypnotherapy is infused in my curriculum. And right now I am putting together the Gloat Salon, the greatest love of all time salon. And it's going to be a very small group of elite women who are tens about wanting to get the love that they desire. And we're going to start work in September. And one thing they can do is go to my website, join the wait list, get on the list. And there's a bit of an application process because I want to make sure that it's women who are really ready to master alignment, ready to master communication and partnership, and just clear all those blind spots and those blocks and do this real work, right? Get into the responsible forgiveness and clear all that past stuff that's standing in the way. Because the reason I did this list of practice and pitfalls is not to make it so you're constantly checking yourself that you're doing the right thing. Like we all have moments of doing both. We're human, right? So you're never going to be perfectly always doing the practices, but it is important to have support around practicing as much as you can, the things that will get you to what you want to, right? What you want to have. So that the salon, I'm telling everybody, join the wait list, start your application. I'll send you the application. And I'm only taking 10 women for this. So yeah.
Fantastic. Are there guarantees on the other side?
Well, the guarantee, no matter what, is that your relationship with yourself will be one that you want to have mirrored back to you. And then the other thing is, while I never say, because divine right timing, right, that you will absolutely have your person as soon as we're done. Like I would never say that. But what I will say is that if you make the distinction between readiness and desirous, like sometimes we think because we're very desirous that we're ready. I strongly believe that readiness is signaled by actually having it, right? So the idea is to get you ready so that it's not just, oh, my desire is so strong, I know I'm ready. It's no, you're ready. Because when you're ready, it appears. Trust me, it's what happened to me. It took some time, but the moment I was ready, it's like, oh.
Oh man, Candice, I always love when you come on. You provide incredible insight into, I think, a thing that presents a lot of clouds for people. They just can't sort through it. So thank you for coming on and talking about relationships and love. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in again to Tami's Table. I hope you're getting information that you can apply in your life. I believe you are, because I am. But I want to thank you again, and we will see you here back Monday at noon for the next Tami's Table. Have a great week.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.